Going live, 10, 9, 8. It says we're live. We don't know if we are, but we're going to trust it. Good morning. It's Monday morning, August 3rd. When you're seeing us, we're sneakily pre-recording it because we have other things going on. But I'm Sarah Coolidge, and I want to welcome you to Monday Momentum. Every Monday, we have a broadcast for ourselves and for you to remind you that you're not alone. For those of you who are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, working from home, we know what it's like. We know about distractions. We're going to be talking about that a lot today. We know how easy it is to take on way too much, thinking that somehow you're going to get it all done. And then, of course, there's the things like the ringing doorbell or the kids saying, "Take me to work, please." Those things that get us off track. So our idea with Monday Momentum is at least once during the week, Monday morning, which is our traditional work week start, we will get excited. We will get off to the right foot, on the right foot, knowing which direction we want to go in for the week with that kind of momentum that the goal is it's going to carry us all the way into Friday, sliding into that home base, looking back, saying, yeah, that was a good week. I got a lot done, and I got it done in alignment with what I'm trying to get done. So welcome to it. Congratulations that you found us, that you're with us, because that means that you want to move forward as well. Again, I'm Sarah Coolidge, and my partner today is Linda Kay. Linda and I are missing James this morning. We're thinking that he's probably busy because he's running for office in Utah. So me being a veteran of running for office, I can tell you, it takes over your whole life pretty dang quick. So we're wishing him the best. We're planning on seeing him again quite soon and filling us in on what's going on with him. But his day has probably filled right up. So Linda, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll get started.
Awesome. Good morning. Linda Kay coming at you from New Hampshire. I'm interested in today's topic myself, Sarah. I cannot wait to get this wisdom imparted into me and to how it's going to help my business.
Well, good, because between you and me, we're going to come up with a ton of wisdom. So what we wanted to talk about today was a mutual problem that we had discussed last week. And I'm not sure if Linda is up to her eyeballs in it right now, but I know both James and I are. And one of the things that we spoke about, or I did, was the fact that over there on my wall, I have a calendar that is still set up with May. Now it's August 1st. And it was just an indication or a symptom of the sort of over committed, overwhelmed, overabundance of things to do, projects to work on, commitments that I've made to support other people and other projects that do feel definitely in alignment with my vision of what I'm trying to produce in the world. And yet here we are going, wait a minute, I got way too much on my plate. I need to stop sleeping altogether so that I can get caught up. And of course, wonderful, shiny, beautiful new opportunities just keep popping up all the time. So how do you manage that? And what our goal is today is to just banter back and forth. I'm going to my goal is to come up with a list of just some really great ideas that we've either heard from before, know have worked for other people, a few that have hopefully worked for ourselves, things that might be, again, useful to you if you're dealing with that sort of overwhelmed monster, that hydra where you cut off one head and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 20 spring forward. So wondering, Linda, have you ever had an experience where you felt that way? And how'd you get out of it? Or did you?
Oh, yeah. So before we get into that, Sarah, you mentioned one thing, you talked about goals and you talked about your calendar and you talked about that calendar last week. And one of the things that, as I learn a little bit more about not accountability, but making progress and taking action, they say a goal without action is something, and it's totally left me as to what is a wish or something like that. But I really think you should get up from your chair right now and go change that calendar.
Okay, here's May, really nice picture. Here's June that I missed, a bull moose. Look at that, Alaska. Here's July, underwater. I missed that one too. I mean, the reason I have this camera in part is because I love the pictures. And so August, oh, look, he's kicking ass. He's moving forward. He's leaving these two in the dust. Yoo-hoo, that's us this month. Who are they? I don't know. Yes, I agree. And I'm amazed that it's August. I don't know why summer goes faster. Oh, I held it up, but you didn't see any of it, did you? Because I did that. Here's August. There it is. See, he's leaving them behind. That's me.
So I think that's pretty incredible. You know, it just takes 2 seconds to get up sometimes and take that action like you just did. And how much do we procrastinate it? How much time does it really spend in our mind, preventing us from doing other things when we could just simply do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Just go ahead and do it. And I don't feel as though it's always so much how much time does it use in our mind, but how much energy is it sucking out of us to think about it. I mean, it happens to me a lot when I'm driving, where it's like, oh yeah, there's this I'm supposed to do, and then that leads me to, oh yeah, and I'm supposed to do that, and I start to feel overwhelmed, and I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel good about what I'm getting done, and you know, yeah, it's done. It's not that hard. Just go ahead and do it.
So as you're thinking about all those things in your mind as you're driving or whatnot, do you ever pick up your, well, I guess you can't do it now. I know I can't do it here in New Hampshire, pick up my cell phone and use the voice recorder to capture some of this stuff so I don't lose it?
I don't, because I feel like I already know what it is, and it's already captured somewhere. It's written down over there on the wall or somewhere. But I remember when we worked on mind mapping about a month ago, there was definitely a huge feeling of relief of writing it down in a different way, I guess, or in a way that it felt sort of safe now. I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's captured. And I know that my mentor around the mind mapping, which was also James, said, you know, he revisits his mind map a lot, and I haven't looked at mine, especially since I've been home from that trip, and that was something I was thinking I should do. I will tell you, I came up with an idea for myself last week when we were in between shows, and now I'm trying to find it right here on my desk. I had it here. I'll find it in a minute. But what it is, and I'm committed to doing this for a week. And seeing how it helps me, if it does at all. And it's very simple. It's no big deal. I made a little list and I just called it 4 hours. And I said, okay, if I put 4 hours every day into just the things that I'm working on, that I want to move forward with, I bet I will move somewhere. I will get more done than if I just let my days fill up, that I often do. It's not that I'm not working at least 4 hours a day. I'm working 14 hours every day on something that I believe is going to get me where I want to go. But there's clearly too much of it. As we were talking about last week, the plate is too full to be doing anything effectively. And if I could scrape out 4 hours and really sit down and say, okay, what are you going to do in these 4 hours towards these top identified things you need to get done, to be able to get them off your list completely. So that's my thing for the next week, which means when we hook up again on August 10th, see, I have a calendar over there too. On August 10th, I'll tell you how I've been doing with it and how it's worked for me and what I've discovered. Seems really simple, but it felt like something that might be useful to me, to really sit down and just say, okay, 4 hours, where are you going to carve them out? Do you have to stay up late because you filled your day up with other stuff? Okay, then do that. So we'll see.
Now, are you going to attack this that, you know, all of a sudden you've got to chunk out 4 hours all at once at one point in your day? Or are you divvying up those 4 hours?
I don't have to do it all at once, if that's, you know, no, just that 4 hours. For instance, I went on Wednesday, I came home, went to a meeting, came home, and it was 2 in the afternoon. And I said, and this is when I began to get this idea. I was like, you know, I just spent 6 hours total getting, well, more if you talk about getting ready, but from 8 to 2, driving to a meeting that's a really good meeting, but it takes almost an hour to get there, participating in the meeting, following up with people after the meeting, setting up new meeting stuff, doing a couple of errands, which might have took an hour, and then coming home. That was 6 hours. That was a big chunk of time. What did I get for it? I don't know. Was it valuable enough? I'm not sure. I mean, I keep doing it every Wednesday because I believe it has value, but it's also a lot of time. And that was where I thought, okay, let's see if you can find 20 hours a week, which is nothing compared to what we know many people do put into one project with focus, and really focus it on the things that you want to do, and do it in a very deliberate way. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or what you were trying to get at, but back to you. Tell me.
Okay, well, a lot of times we think about taking a 4-hour chunk and just focusing on work that's probably really overwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that I've been studying on time management and whatnot says, out of every hour, you're really only working 50 minutes because you got to take a 10-minute break in between times.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you procrastinate doing the work because you think you got to make that 4-hour chunk it down into, 1-hour increments or something like that. I just think it's
I agree with that completely. And I do that a lot. I just set an hour on here, timer, and for this hour, I'm going to write. For this hour, I'm going to work on, paying bills or whatever. And that's, I agree with that. It's very useful. You can really get a lot done that way. And so I don't feel like I have to have 4 hours altogether. It's nice. But just 4 hours on these things, that my top identified goals, which are, things that I want to do to move forward. So I found my little sheet. It's just a simple little sheet, 4 hours. What are you going to do? See if you can. I can't hold it up, and I'm just going to go. I made enough for a week, and I'm just going to fill it out and see, okay, this fell apart. I didn't do anything on this day. If that's what happens, okay, I want to really examine it, because I think this is a common issue. Obviously, we've talked about it enough, and I think it's probably a cyclical thing. You carve out some time, you get on top of it, and then more new cool things come up. I mean, if you go out and meet people all the time, which is part of what I do, you're going to have new ideas and new opportunities and new things come to you. So the ability to really recognize, well, how much time is that going to take? How much is it really going to move me where I want to move? Is it something that could wait till later? Is this really the right time for that? I want to become a master of that, at least right now. So any other ideas?
Well, you talk about, is it worth it? A couple of things come to mind. One is, you said you've got an hour drive time. Are you leveraging that 1-hour drive time perhaps for education purposes, listening to books on tapes, doing something? And the other just comment is, we all think that when we attend these networking events, that if we don't get something immediately, that perhaps it wasn't worth it. And I think it's totally the opposite, because it's really about building relationships. And as we go to these networking meetings and we meet people and we get to know people, it doesn't always happen that you're going to get business right away. A lot of times what happens is you form these relationships, and a month later, a couple of months later, maybe they're not the one to give you the business, but they're going to refer you.
Mm-hmm.
So, driving an hour to a networking meeting and then coming back feeling like maybe I'm not sure if it's worth it. I just think there's more to it, and that we should all pay attention to what the real purpose of going to that networking meeting is and taking advantage of that drive time.
Yeah, well, I definitely do. I hardly ever listen to anything but books on tape in my car. And thank goodness that you can do that, because I've sure learned a lot over the years. And I recommend it. Definitely do it if you're not already, because you really can learn so much. And you'll find that you're speaking about stuff you just heard this morning on your drive in, and suddenly you have material for a conversation with someone. But I agree, building relationships is hugely important, especially if you're in networking, which is really a big part of what I do. And it wasn't so much that I felt like that time was wasted or anything. It just sort of, wow, 6 hours. Okay. you know, kind of the goal is to work 40 hours a week and do other things. How are you going to get there with you're spending 6 hours? If you did that every day, would you? I don't think I would. But once a week, maybe that's just fine. But where is the work happening then? When, you know, when will you do it? And we were discussing before the broadcast a little bit about email marketing, following up with people, those kinds of things. When you go to a networking event, if you go to tons of them, you just collect lots and lots and lots of these. And if you don't take the time and schedule the time to follow up, then they just sit there. And so you were speaking a little bit about an email marketing program that you know of that can really cut it, or I don't want to say cut into, do I? Cut down the amount of time that someone spends on follow-up. And for me, I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about that, because I want to be able to follow up effectively. And that's one of the things that I want to spend some of my 4 hours working on, getting that into a system that's working better for me, so I can save more time later. So tell me about it.
Absolutely. So I don't have it on my website yet. It's not officially rolled out, but you know, anyone that wants to have the one-on-one conversation, I'm happy to do that. But basically, it's a combination of a CRM system with the email management, with event management, and a lot of the marketing automation functions built into it. And I find that, you know, we collect all these business cards. What do we do with them? Well, if we don't have an immediate campaign or anything that we're running, we tend to let these business cards stack up and we don't do anything with them. What my system will do is, you know, when you input all these cards, you can group and you can segment and you can recapture in the CRM system, customer relationship management, for folks who might not know what CRM means. But it allows you to capture information, where you met the person, what their interests were. Try and remember some of the conversation. And you put all this into your marketing automation system. So when it comes time to do a promotion or an email blast or whatnot, you'll have this thing ready to go. And oh, by the way, if they pick up the phone and call you or they email you, instead of trying to dig through your pile, find this business card of this person and try and remember, what was the conversation I had with them?
Mm-hmm.
You go into your CRM system, and there it is, all the information that you've captured. So I think it's really important not to just stack those business cards up, but to leverage a system that's going to allow you to really make the most out of it. So the CRM system is really great. It keeps track of who you met, what conversations you had. It allows you to keep track of when you email them, either one-off or in an email campaign. It ties into other systems, like if you needed to run events and different things like that. So it's really cool. It is actually sold by a much larger company at a much larger price tag. And what we've done is we're resellers for it, so we can get you in at a really great price on that. So,
do you feel like this particular system is best designed for businesses of a certain size? I mean, for me, it's just me still, pretty much. I mean, I have people work for me once in a while, or is it good for solopreneurs?
It is good for solopreneurs. It's good for larger businesses because the pricing is tiered and it's based on the number of contacts you have. So if you only have, 1,000 contacts or, 5,000 contacts, it's a really great inexpensive system. When you start getting into a lot more contacts, it's actually going to be a lot more beneficial to the large companies. So, you can go to, there's a ton of these email services, some of them out there for free, some of them out there, not very much money per month. But the trouble is they're focused on one thing. They're primarily email lists and managing your email list. And they're not really about the CRM and capturing the whole relationship with the customer.
And this system also is not just CRM, but it also, you can write your emails through it. You can.
Absolutely. and you can schedule them, and you can see how many people opened them, and it ties into social media. So when someone signs up on your list, you can kind of get a little indication of what kind of presence they have out there in social media. It's a little Big Brotherish sometimes, you know. You can find out a lot of information from someone's email address. It's amazing.
Well, and that's a really great way to save some time. If you know, I can see learning it is going to be, okay, that'll take some time. How am I going to manage that? But for those of us who are really truly trying to build a list, which is one way, of course, to build your impact in the world, is to have people that you have permission to reach out and contact every so often. It can be, you're going to get to a point where the list is big and you can't manage it completely the way you might have with just your regular old Outlook or whatever email system you were using. So certainly that would be a way to help you with that hydra we're talking about, that beast that sort of takes over. What about things like pieces of paper? Are they going to disappear altogether? Filing cabinets? Do we is it gonna ever get so it's a little simpler? Because I still, I save all my receipts, and I know that there are people that don't, and there's probably people that think I'm crazy that I do that. And I know it is a symptom of, well, you really used to need to do that, but I can't imagine not doing that. And yet it adds to the clutter, and the clutter adds to the distraction. This distraction keeps you from being able to be focused on what you're really wanting to do. And I'm just curious if you have insight or ideas about that, or you've heard others.
So the most important piece of paper that I have is that piece of paper that I keep by my bed. Because when I wake up first thing in the morning, that's when all the brainstorming goes on for me. And that's when I make my lists, and that's when I really think about the projects that I want to work on. So that piece of paper doesn't go away. And ideally, I take that piece of paper and I file it into, a stack of other daily pieces of paper that are in there. And I can flip back and say, what was I thinking? What were these projects? What were these ideas that I had? So to me, that piece of paper is extremely valuable. The other really valuable time where I kept paper and I'm thinking about going back to it is like the Franklin Covey system, where you've got, your little calendar here, and, you've got your little to-do list, and then you've got what your accomplishments were for the day. And they do have an online version, but I never really liked their online version. So I'm kind of thinking about going back to their paper version, just because I live in a world that's electronic, and sometimes the paper world, it's just a nice distraction. It's a nice separation from being plugged in all the time. And then the other thing you mentioned was you keep copies of receipts and whatever it is. And we know we all need these for our business and for tax purposes and things like that. But it doesn't really matter to them whether they're electronic copies or they're paper copies. So many years ago, I bought this thing called Neat Receipts. And you just feed it through, and it scans all of your receipts, and it files them in different locations, and you can go back and you can track receipts electronically. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a lot of receipts and you want to get rid of that paper, it might be something you want to take a look at.
It is something I want to take a look at. So I'll put it on the list. So talking about the list, the list of things to do doesn't say things like, find a new way to deal with my receipts. It's bigger than that. And I'm wondering if one of the most powerful things that I think we can do is learning how to say no, and learning how to take a minute to really reflect, is this, whatever it is that's come up right now and as an opportunity for me, something that I want to do or not? Because at least the challenge is often for me, I say, oh yeah, that sounds cool. I want to do that, or I could do that, and I know that our compatriot who's not here today has the same issue. And then later it's like, wow, how am I going to get that done? When am I going to do it? Oops, 6 hours just went by. and I didn't finish dealing with my receipts yet because I was doing that other thing. Techniques for saying no, techniques for inner, hey, slow down just a minute here and think about this. You know, I'll have to get back to you would be like a really good sentence for me. I have to, you know, go through my calendar and really make an assessment of that. And then doing it and really being realistic about it. I mean, that's the thing that I feel as though I'm struggling with, that that's why my little 4-hour, it's like, let's get real. What does it really take? And I'm curious if you have techniques or ideas around that, around the ability to not take more on, which seems to me to be something that's really going to help along with getting some of this other stuff done.
So one of the things that I like to do is try and approach, you know, that request for something right away. Instead of saying, let me get back to you, to me, that just causes, you know, one more thing that I have to follow up on. But if I can preface it and say, you know, I've only got a few minutes, but let's, you know, talk about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that's going to suck up a lot of my time, you know, I have to take a look. Can we schedule that? Or do I have to gracefully say, you know, I'm just maxed out and I can't do that right now, you know, call me next year. But I find that not dealing with it right away takes more time for me. It's like answering your phone. If you're in the middle of something and the phone rings, do you consider that a distraction and get thrown off from what you're working at? Or do you consider it, if I deal with this phone call right now, it's going to save me a call back later? So this is part of that multitasking that we all do.
And are you saying that you always, for instance, if you're working on a project, when the phone rings, will answer it? Or is it something that it's a case by case? Depends on what you're working on?
It depends who it is. I mean, obviously, if it's somebody calling to say, hey, what's going on this weekend, I'm not going to answer it right there if I'm in the middle of something.
So
but
caller ID is pretty useful for you.
Major.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, being able to say to the world, I'm working for an hour and call me back if that's a problem is an okay thing to be able to do. And otherwise, you know, people do seem to expect instant answers all the time. It's like my son's, I texted you 10 minutes ago. Why haven't you answered me? And I'm sort of bewildered by that. But at the same time, I like your idea that, you know, if you don't take care of it now, you're just going to have to take care of it later. It's to me, it's a balance, because I feel as though if I dealt with every email, every phone call, every, you know, text, or every Facebook interaction instantly, the way some people seem to want me to, I would never be doing anything but that, because that's constant. And carving out the ability to say, you know, no, I'm not gonna do that right now, or I'm only gonna, you know, look at emails in the morning or in the evening, and that's it. I mean, I got better at that during the campaigning. I had to tell people, look, if you really want to reach me, you need to send me a text. Don't send me an email. I'll get it eventually, but if you're needing an answer, that's not going to be soon enough for you, maybe. And the best thing to do is text, and I'll at least know that you're trying to reach me because I'll look at it. And that's, I think, those kinds of skills, recognizing that we're all busy. But I don't want to just recognize that we're all busy. I want to build a life where we can breathe and enjoy it and not feel so dang busy, that it's productive and in alignment and moving in the good direction. And okay, it's all right that I'm going to bed now, and I don't want to always get to the evening and go, wow, that day just went so fast. What happened? Unless I can also say, yes, and what happened got me closer to where I'm trying to go. So those are the skills I'm wanting to develop, and I know I have some of them. I just thought we could, you know, maybe find some more, get some new ideas, get remotivated around getting organized, if that's what it is, bringing on help. I mean, I very much want an assistant, and yet somehow I don't have one.
exactly what I was just thinking in the back of my mind is, when can a solopreneur hire a virtual assistant? Whether it's part-time, full-time, where does that balance begin? Because, if we are doing absolutely everything ourselves, it may not be the best use of our time.
I'm sure it's not.
Answering those, routine emails, or, writing up some procedural document, or following through on something or other. I think it's important for us to consider, when is that point when we can outsource?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe assigning our dollar worth to our time.
I've heard that many times. Figure out what you really want to be worth per hour. If you're going to work 40 hours a week and you want to make X thousand, and you might be able to do this in your brain better than I can, what does that mean you've got to earn per hour? And if you're not earning that per hour, why not? And another mentor of mine basically said, if it costs anything but less than $100 an hour to get it done, I hire somebody to do it. I don't do it myself. I work in my strength. And this is, I don't know how you make that decision, but maybe this is how you make it when you are having these kinds of conversations, which is, where did my day go? Why am I so behind on my receipts and my calendar and all those things? Well, maybe that means, yeah, it is time. And of course, the question for many of us is, okay, yeah, I agree, it's time. I could really use some help. Will they come and work for me for free? We wonder, where's the budget for that? And that'll be a whole nother conversation. But another little piece of information I just heard this week around that topic was useful to me. And so I'm glad we're bringing it up. And that was something like, when you're building your team, and, I consider us a team, even if we're not paying each other for anything. We're working together on a project that is mutually beneficial to all of us. But as you're building a team, to not take, to not try to pick people and give them jobs, but instead identify the job that needs to be done and then find the person that will fit that. And I'm bringing this up because, I just said a minute ago, I really want an assistant. Well, there's someone that I've interacted with over the last year that I'm like, you would be perfect for me. I want you to come work for me a little bit. Couldn't you work 5 hours a month for me? Just help me. You're great at this. And I would love to have you. Well, it's not happening. And I'm so determined sort of to have it be this one person that I'm like, not getting it done, versus build the job description and say, okay, what would this be? What are the things that I need, that I want? And then just put the dang thing, here's another thing, put it up there on Craigslist or whatever, and see if you can find someone. Find an intern to help with these things. I guess, yeah, that's probably where I'm at. And the financial piece of it scares me, but there must be ways to get help that are not going to cost me tons and tons of money. Or the payoff is going to be that I will be able to go out and work more for $100 an hour, so I can pay that person. And that's really, what is your time worth? So,
two schools of thoughts on the type of person you hire. Good to Great. Have you read that book?
No.
Really great book. It talks about getting the right people on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of drives the direction where you're going. So, you've identified something about this person that you really like about them, and you really want them to work for you. What is the real value that you're getting out of that person if they were to come on board with you, versus, like you said, putting an ad on Craigslist and getting someone to fill that? And I think it really depends on your business, and it depends on the level that you want. If you want someone to think for themselves, to be a contributor to what you do, that's one thing. But if you just want somebody to do the work, most anybody can do that. And, there's books written on how to bring things down to the absolute lowest level that you can train someone. It's the McDonald's and the Burger King theory.
Mm-hmm.
Break everything down to its lowest point that you can train a monkey to do it. Versus those things that take expertise and, thinking and collaborating. So, you know, you got to ask yourself why this person is so important to you. What else are they going to bring? And is it really going to propel you by bringing them on board, or can you just get anybody to do it? But I think it's definitely time, I know, to start offloading some of this stuff. And I can't do everything in my whole business. I mean, I do have developers for the technical stuff, but you know what? I need to bring in that accountant. I need to bring in that virtual assistant. I need to help bring in someone else to help me deal with certain types of clients.
So I think that's actually a cause for celebration. And we're winding up our call now. So, you know, yippee, we get to go out on a good note, which is that we've got more work than we can handle. And, you know, of course, we'd like to also say we have more money than we can handle. But one may come before the other. And so yippee, that there is so much going on that we're looking at, okay, we've got to hire some people here, because that's what the businesses are about, at least in part, is providing resources and value, not just for our customers, but for other people who then can grow and build their lives as well. And if that means we become employers, then yippee for us. So yay. So we're out of time. I want to thank you so much, Linda, for joining me today, and for all the rest of you for watching. Would you like to go ahead and sign out, and then I'll close her off?
Awesome. Well, I am Linda Kay from Interactive Synergy, and what I do is website hosting, design and development, and marketing automation. So I am helping business owners leverage the information that they have and get it out there to others.
Great. Thanks, Linda. And I just want to say, you know, number one, we talked about earlier my little 4-hour plan. So we'll be reporting about that next week and see how it went, even if I have to say, well, it just didn't. And this is why. That's fine with me. And I am not going to be able to do this in this next week, but I would say by this time, like say September 1st, I'm going to have created some kind of job description for the kind of person and what they will be doing. So those are my 2 little accountability pieces that I'm throwing out there, because I don't want to keep having this conversation. And I do believe that it comes and goes. We grow in bursts, and it's growing, so that's great. But I want to be better and better at it. And I don't want to look over there and see my calendar say anything but the month that I'm actually in anymore.
Oh, you started with that?
Let's make that happen. So thank you for joining us on Monday Momentum. You can reach me, Sarah Coolidge, through I'm Watching Ann right now. I just want to remind you all, Ann Lorimer is 85 years old. She just completed climbing Mount Kilimanjaro with us. And when she did that, as far as we know, she became the world record holder as being the oldest woman to ever do that. We're still waiting for a verification, validation from the Guinness Book of World Records, because they have a process they go through, but we don't see any reason why it's not going to happen. And that's really cool. And the reason that she did it is to raise awareness for her foundation, which raises money for youth and young ones in our world. And there's nothing wrong with that. So please go check out imwatchingann.org. There's lots of cool stuff about our climb on there. And you can like it, click it, share it, post it, comment on it, and of course, donate. All of that would be fabulous. We'll see you next Monday. Have a fabulous week and rock it. Thanks for joining us. Bye.